And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in Niagara, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone at xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, Xzone Radio TV. To find out about the broadcast schedule we have for you 24/7, 365 on the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. And for the X Zone TV channel on Simul TV, go to simultv.com and in the search engine type in X Zone. My guest this hour is Rick Borgia. We've had the pleasure of having Rick on the show a couple of times before. And throughout his life, Rick has been immersed in creativity, including fine arts, songwriting, music, graphic design, film composing, and more in many different locations. He holds a special degree in avid pursuits of curious scientific and paranormal phenomenon. For Rick, psychic, past life, and other spiritual and sensory experiences have played a part in his ability. Joining me now is Rick Borgia. And Rick, welcome back to the X Zone.
Thank you so much, Rob. It's so nice to hear you, and it's always nice to hear your signature walk-in music. It's fabulous. I'm not sure exactly what it is. I know it's not my call. I should know what it is, but it's anthems of some kind, right?
Yeah, what we did was we just mixed the Canadian national anthem, O Canada, with the American Star Spangled Banner.
It's fantastic,
yeah.
Really.
Rick, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do, who you are, and what crusade in life Rick Borgia's on.
Well, we'll start with the crusade. The crusade is to really just make Rick Borgia internally a whole person. To find a way to be free enough to focus on a great accomplishment.
Right.
We don't know what that is yet. It's getting a little late, of course, to make a decision, but it's still part of the process of gathering all the information that I've experienced in my life, the moments to moment, the billions and millions of moments that make me do what I do and create the interest. It sounds egotistical, but it's really not. It's about trying my best to be here fully, completely here on this planet, to understand as much as possible so that I might, at some point, create something that has a lasting effect, and possibly a good effect on the rest of the mankind going forward. So those are the things that I'm curious about. Are the ancient history, contemporary history, the way that science, technology, religious and spiritual experiences are starting to meet together, the concept of life in other parts of the universe. All these things stimulate me, and in my day-to-day life, I am going from reading about it to experiencing it to actively putting elements together to build a legacy, to build something that lasts for myself, just for myself. I'm not really out for fame. I don't know really anything else except what I've come to be, which is an artist, a musician. But I didn't even go by those titles so much because they all interrelate and integrate for me in a very, very special way.
You almost seem like a Renaissance man.
It's those all. So
yeah,
the number one
it's
thing
a title,
I think is that all of us have a box that we can sort of put this person in or that person in, and it's not that I don't want to be in a categorized as this or that. It's just that I probably had some brain damage when I was younger, so I wasn't able to really commit 100% to one element in my youth that I could adhere to as a singular goal, like tennis or golf,
sure.
or science or medicine. All of them became sort of equal to me. So the Renaissance part of it, I really do appreciate you saying that, because what inspired me originally was the studying art as a child, as a 4-year-old child, 4, 5, 6 years old, we were taken to the museum school in a little town across the lake from you called Erie, Pennsylvania.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, you know Erie.
I sure do. Been there many times.
And we used to go to, my mother and my father brought us to the art lessons, and what we encountered inside the museum was busts of Caesar, Aphrodite. We saw the statuary that reflected the ancient Greek and Roman architecture. It was just so overwhelming to me. And the teachers that I had one teacher called Mrs. Lord at the Erie Museum Art School, and she had such a powerful impression on me that led me into further studies at super young age, like 5, 6, 7 years old. I'm reading about Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo and becoming aware that it was possible for human beings to do magnificent, almost unbelievable art. And then later on, I was introduced to, my father brought 3 of his sons, myself, my older brother, and my younger brother, Joe. He brought us to the local music store to take guitar lessons. And after about 2 or 3 months, my older brother dropped out and my younger brother dropped out, and I stayed with it. So music and art have been side by side for me as I was going through, as my brain was forming, and making connections between those things, and also becoming fascinated with the lives of the people who came before us, and then to find out later how they were intricately enlaced in society and their presence, and how much power their art reflected in the general, in the world, in politics, and of the politics of the Renaissance. So the Renaissance is a very, very special time for me. There was also a lot of transformational experiences that people were having in spirituality, in the questioning of the continuum, what the religious parts of society from all over the world were starting to find a way to realize that they were all there at the same time, and going for dominance, etc. And all those things became a fascination for me. Which also set me up for continuing the same path. So I really haven't ended up at the place where I could say, yes, I have a master's degree in cuneiform art, or I do not. I don't have any specialized degree, and I don't have any specialty. Even when it comes to art and when it comes to music, I'm still circling. I'm still circling the airport, looking for a runway to land on, experiencing as many different forms that I run across. So I am, in that way, I would say a Renaissance man. But when I think of the Renaissance man, I do think of Leonardo da Vinci as a pillar of human achievement and inspiration. And then subsequently, I started to find out how they lived, and then find out how the musicians lived of the time, and started to imagine what it was like for the people in Venice, or in Rome, or in Milan, especially in Milan, where Vivaldi might have had his choirs singing and his double orchestras playing, or Johann Sebastian Bach. Can you imagine, Rob? You've been to classical concerts, I'm sure, many times.
Yes.
And when you are confronted with 75 highly skilled musicians, all bearing down and focusing so intently on one man's creative work, and they are all in sync, you start to feel, and when you study the music and you start to play the music and you see the shapes and forms of the music, you start to get a sense of the personality of those individuals.
All right, Rick, I hate to do this, but we've got to take our break. Please stand by. Exonation, Rick Borgia is our special guest. www.rickborgia.com. That's RICKBORGIA.com. And we'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center and studios in Niagara, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away. And welcome back. Rick Borgia is our special guest, www.rickborgia.com. Rick, as an artist, as a musician, what is your sense of what is going on in the universe these days? It seems that there are subtle changes that are being detected. We can see the changes that are affecting our society, our humanity. And as an artist, what is your perception of what's going on?
Well, one of the things that you can point at is the huge amount of speakers in our world, the huge amount of screens in our world, the huge amount of displays in our world. We don't have as many open books in our hands, but we do have square formats where we look at screens, and it's a square screen. We don't look at round screens very often. We don't look at oval screens very often. We look at square screens. So we are always, so the whole population, and they're not just looking at square screens 5 minutes out of every day, they're looking continuously. Phone, television, computer, billboard, et cetera, et cetera. And that square frame of reference, that rectangular screen, is a 2D representation of 3D reality. And this is something that really just came about really after the discovery of photography, but it's really given everybody a different perspective, or not even a different perspective, because we're not even thinking about it. It's taken for granted. But I do think that format of seeing things in a tight little area that give us all this information, I think that has entered into not the DNA, but certainly into the sub areas of the intellect, or the frontal cortex or prefrontal cortex, and it's established itself as the norm of how we exist. The billions and billions of speakers. We can't really go anywhere these days without hearing some sounds coming from some speakers. A lot of speakers are above our heads. In stores, any place you were at today, you might have been at a gas station today and filling up or doing something, and there's speakers playing at the gas station. You go. So all of these things are continuously sending information to the individuals. To us, to me, to you. And we have no sophisticated way to filter them as much, and we don't think that we're paying it, and we don't even pay attention to it, but it still seeps in.
Right.
It still seeps into the subconscious. That's one of the reasons why I think Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci and all of the great composers and all of the amazing artists throughout the history of mankind have been able to achieve such high level of execution, because they weren't distracted, or they didn't have any other influences besides what they had in their jurisdiction of their brain and in their own pursuits, and how they were assembling it. They didn't have so many
distractions,
fashion shows to attend to see what the other guys were doing. However, as time progressed and the interrelationships between people, the amount of technology that allowed us to travel back and forth between countries easily and quickly, and that just cross-pollinated so much of the artistic and musical sound production of the individuals that they do. So in today's world, you have so many different combinations of cultural influences stacked upon each other and interwoven to each other, creating new formats and new ways to experience sound and visuals. And we would think, God, please, oh my God. Now you have, for the last 50 years, we've had special effects that are so incredible. In the last 15 or 10 to 15 years, the special effects in movies, television, commercials, etc. My God, there's nothing to the imagination. Can you believe it? No.
Yeah, well, speaking about imagination, Rick, I understand that you have the ability, or you've developed the ability, to sense other beings in the universe. How did you do this?
Well, what I sense. Let's take for an example. I mean, it's one example I would use is when there is a tragedy, when there is a tragedy like a plane crash. I remember once being in Manhattan in New York City, and it was not that long after it was fact, and very, very close to the time of 9/11, when the third or the several weeks afterwards, there was another plane that went down over by Nantucket in Rhode Island. It was a horrible thing that happened, and there was a big controversy about that, and there was a conspiracy theory. Was it shot down? I can't even quote the name of the flight or anything, but when that happened, I didn't know about it, but I was I was not in the World Trade Center. I was downtown, but I sensed I pictured the spirits of the people who perished in that, because they were cut short, because they were going to see grandma, they were going to a new business meeting, they were going to get married someplace, they were going on vacation. They were in the middle of something. They weren't prepared to leave the planet's surface yet. They really didn't have a chance to make sure that everything was buttoned up or ready to go on to the next level of existence. And they were set free, but they didn't leave the planet's surface. And they ended up traveling from the eastern part of Long Island to the west. And I felt I imagine them as rivulets. I call them rivulets. And I still experience that a lot, which is like it looks like an eel in the air. It's like like an eel fish, except it's just invisible. It's invisible, but I imagine it that it's the spiritual, electronic,
soul,
chemical, something of those individuals that was still active and still vibrant and still powerful enough that it would sustain itself and be able to just move through the atmosphere and travel right by me. And it was like a whole package of these entities just came by me. And then I found out later that about an hour and a half later, I found out about the plane going down. And I attributed it to that, but that's one example. So what happened when I started to do that was really in very, very early in my life, when I had a scare when I was very young, 4 or 5 years old, and I perceived that there was some kind of entity that was nearby where my grandmother's house was, which was also in Erie, Pennsylvania. And I had such a permanent, not scar from it, but just a reminder. It sort of reminded me, and it kept me in line with keeping my eyes open and taking a little breath here and there, and being still. Anywhere you went, you could sense that I could feel that there had been somebody there before. We know about Indian trackers. We know about Nepalese guides. We know about some of the more some indigenous peoples in South America who have the ability to move across water, or have not necessarily superhuman powers, but they have been free enough from repetitive instruction to tell them what their limitations are, that they didn't have any limitations. So they were able to, if they were lucky enough, or if they had the right guidance, or if the shamans that had the guidance from hundreds of years passed on from one to the other, one to the other, one to the other, then that would give them some skills in detecting where to go next, or who is coming from miles away, or how the land might be looking farther away. And really, in today's world, we call that remote viewing, which you've had some guests on your show, I'm sure, have discussed remote viewing in detail, or at least mentioned it for sure. Is that correct?
Oh, definitely. We've done entire shows on remote viewing.
Yeah.
We've had Uri Geller on. We've had Major Ed Dames on. You name them. Russell Targ, the person,
Russell Targ from Monroe. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
and he was also the instructor of the CIA when it came to remote viewing. That's
exactly right. So you see in today's world with the quantum physics and with the understanding of really the quantum theories of physics, where they have being able to see that matter has other displays, that matter can be mutated into other things.
Rick, stand by. We've got to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. X-Zone Nation, Rick Borgia is our guest this hour, www.rickborgia.com. If you'd like to get your complimentary copy of the X Chronicles newspaper, it's always available free online at www.xchroniclesnewspaper.com. And once again, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, and the X-Zone TV channel, www.simultv.com, and in the search engine on the SimulTV main page, just type in X-Zone. Rick Borgia and I will return on the other side of this news break as the X-Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center and studios in Niagara, Ontario, Canada. X-Zone Nation, Rick Borgia is our guest this hour, www.rickborgia.com. Rick, something tragic happened to you in 2017. You nearly died. Tell us about that and the experiences that you had while the process of your death was happening.
It was an amazing experience. It was a blessing, really. It was, to tell you the truth. Mm-hmm. I had what is called I had a bout of where I would take a breath and my lungs would fill up with moisture.
Oh gosh.
And I can't remember the name of the thing. I know it very well, but all of a sudden, no.
It's all right.
And what it was I had a bicuspid valve in my aortic valve was bicuspid throughout my whole life, and it just broke one day. One early morning at 8 o'clock in the morning at someone else's facility. Thank God they had the full med kit, full first aid kit. They had the nitro pills. They had the paddles. They had the stuff, but they didn't really do anything because my situation. They didn't know how to do it. So I was losing breath. Each breath I was taking was shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. So this was going on for about 15 or 20 minutes. By the time when I first got there, they had called the medics to come to help me. And on their way, the gentleman who was the manager of this facility was on the phone with the EMTs, telling them exactly what my symptoms were. So by the time they got there, they just got there in time to put a mask on me to resuscitate me. And for the next 6 or 7 hours, they had this process where they resuscitated me. So, but during the time that I was going down, my vision went to black and white first. I knew my mind. I knew I was going to be okay somehow, because I didn't panic. I just was fascinated with the different things that were happening as I was dying. I really just didn't know how else to think about it. I mean, I'm smiling now because I'm alive, of course. But what had happened is after they revived me, they found out that they had broken, and they decided they were going to do a valve replacement for me. So in the next few days, I was in the operating room, and they prepped me for the operation, and I had a song that I wanted to play for my heart surgeon, who was going to do the operation. And this was at Riverside Hospital in Columbus, Ohio. And the song was called Dr. Priest. And Dr. Priest, can't you see? Something's happening to me. I can't tell if it's a hole in my soul. And the lyrics were all about dying with this particular thing. And I had written it about 20 years before that time. So I played it for him, and it was just a miracle type of experience. And throughout the whole thing, as I went into anesthesia, I came up above my body. I just came out of my body and viewed the operation from above, to watch them do the manipulations and pull my breastbones apart after sawing and pulling it apart. So I actually remember that, but not as of the patient, as someone who is viewing it. I've also done a painting about that. So it was just the electric and just the electric chemistry that was happening for me was a miracle. It was a miracle, total miracle, that I was able to go that far down. I did see the little cone of light when I was actually dying, and also coming back when I came back from the anesthesia back into my body. So I was able to, when I was finished when I finally came to, hours and hours later, it was a 14 hours, something bad happened during the operation, or something not right. So they had to do it again. So they had to do something again. And so it was a long time, but it was a striking experience that, of course, not so many people get to go all the way down and come back and be almost totally okay. I mean, I think I'm totally okay.
Well, we're glad you're here, Rick, because you are a very gifted person musically, as an artist, and you're also a very, very nice guy, and we're glad that you were able to pull through and that you're back here with us.
Well, it's been a great journey, and Rob, I a lot of the things about coming on your show, and I know I guess it's because the excitement of sharing things, especially with you, is a joy for me. Is a joy for me. So I'm a little bit more perked up, I would say. That's really what's happening.
Let me just put it this way: I appreciate Rick Borgia. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Okay. And I appreciate Rob McConnell.
Hey, Rick, you see that the paranormal is normal. Explain that. I find that a very interesting concept. The paranormal is normal, which means normal is paranormal.
Well, it's my way of saying that everybody has a component that I think we're all born with innate potential to develop psychic power and psychic abilities. I really believe that's part of the way that the humans are built, and that's one of the reasons why I'm interested in extraterrestrial life, and because we share something in cosmic, and that brings me back to the spiritual experiences that I've had as in my religious pursuits, in so many different categories. It's the fact that when you are enlightened, it's not even enlightenment. It's a quality that, for me, I see it in everybody that I meet, and you can draw it out of. You can draw it. You yourself, Rob, can draw it from people, just as you're engaging in conversation. And paranormal, is in the broad sense, is something that is above or outside of what we consider normal. And so much of today's experiences, and when we see, and now we're able to see so much more because of the internet and because of the tremendous saturation of technology giving us data. We have so much data that we can find out about,
Yeah.
and that can prompt us. It can prompt us. It can prompt us into being hyper aware of the other.
But I often wonder, Rick, I often wonder, with all the data that we're being subjected to, 7/24, 365, what is, how do we regulate what the positive versus the negative data that we're being subjected to, through, and then there is the alteration of the electromagnetic field around us by Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, microwave, this, that, and the other thing.
We don't know yet. We're not sure. We don't have all the results of all the things. We don't know if that's changing us as beings, how much of the impact of evolutionary procedures or evolutionary process of the human race is that coming into us. Are those waves doing something to our system, to our way of thinking, to our synapses, and to our, I don't know. We are subjected to, right now, we're in the middle of this huge, gigantic explosion of information. And as you said, how do we filter it? How do we set it up? If we can be neutral, and use as much of the information that is valuable to us at the moment, maybe that's a way to get the best results from it. What do we need? We want to have the best results. Today's world, you have people in sports, the people like pro golfers playing into their 50s and 60s, playing like they were playing against younger people, because there's technology is assisting their well-being in terms of special tools that help their circulation, special regimens that use technology to assist in their recovery from injury. And also the medical field is just jam-packed with breakthroughs on in every category. So we don't know. We're closer to ET than we were certainly 40 years or 50 years ago.
All right, let's talk about ET when we come back from this commercial break. And Nation, Rick Borgia is my very special guest. Visit his website at www.rickborgia.com. Let's see, I was just going to say that if you'd like to find out about the programming on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net, and for all the programming on the X-Zone TV channel on Simul TV. By the way, it's available on Roku, Amazon Fire, the entire works. Visit www.simultv.com. Type in on the search engine X-Zone, and I'd like to say hello to all the people listening to us and watching us in the beautiful city of Los Angeles, California on HD 55. I'm Rob McConnell. Whatever you do, don't go away. Rick Borgia is my special guest, X-Zone Nation, www.rickborgia.com. First of all, before we go any further, Rick, I want to thank you so much for coming back on the show. It's always a pleasure having you on. Keep up the great work that you're doing. You know, you're an inspiration to a lot of people, and I know that in your hometown you also help new and budding artists get their foot wet, not on the palette, hopefully, or the canvas. But Rick, correct me if I'm wrong. A couple of years ago, you were on the show with a CD you did that had a hemisync on it.
Hemisync is actually the patented name of the process. It was created by Bob Monroe from the Monroe Institute, fame in the 50s, and developed it further in the early 60s and 70s, and is carrier tones that are embedded into the music that offset your left and right hemisphere of your brain and actually produce a trance-like meditative state, and can be controlled to go to different types of meditative states or trance states. It's quite extraordinary.
I laughed because when Rick sent me the copy that he did autographed, there was a little note that said, "Please, Rob, do not play this CD in the car when you're driving."
That's right. Yeah, it's not supposed to be played because you actually can be not just distracted, but completely gone, put down. It's not a sleep type of a thing, but there, I would encourage anybody to. It's commonly referred to as binaural beats. Binaural beats. It's not beats like a disco beat. It's the beat of the frequencies from one side to the other, which are just slightly offset, so that they, instead of the two tones being exactly the same pitch, they're just slightly offset, so they create a beating, and which draws your attention from your amygdala, your cortex. I'm not sure what the dynamics are in there, but the result is that you are put into a calm theta or alpha state. They can control that, or we can control that. So that's part of the music. It's really not even, you can't even hear it in the music. I mean, it's there, but you don't. It doesn't rise up and hit you in the face.
And why I mentioned that was because I remember that card that you attached with tape on the front of the cover of the CD.
Okay.
Do not play this in your car when you're driving, or something to that effect. But
yes.
I'll never forget that.
I don't operate heavy machinery.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Rick, what is your take on the extraterrestrial question? There's a lot of controversy out there. There are those who believe. There are those who don't. You have those who say the governments of the world are committing a cover-up, that they're responsible for a conspiracy, that the ETs have been here. What's your take?
I hope someday to be part of the group that is allowed to be
taken home,
witness to this kind of activity. And I love the stories. Charles Wall that you had on recently.
Oh, Charles,
yeah. That is such a marvelous, beautiful scene and concept, the concept of it. And there's a lot of beauty in what he does. And he's as sincere as somebody talking about a football game. What was going on.
Part of the conversation that he didn't talk about this time was how he took a group of these extraterrestrials from Area 52 and Area 53 into Las Vegas.
Yes. And that's something that stuck in my mind. Yeah. That goes along with sensing other beings in the universe. I mean, it's certainly possible because we ourselves, we have witnessed even in our own lives the ability for technology to assist the perception that something is disguised, and the all of the brouhaha about how people are taken out of society, how they are assassinated, or how people are disappeared. We don't have any limitations anymore in that, as far as the technology goes. So it's usually I actually do believe that extraterrestrials. So for me, believe, the only thing I believe is that the word believe in these items is hard to feel 100% about, because what I believe is something that I have to have in my hand. I have to hold it for a few seconds.
Exactly.
I really want to see that. I really want to see that. And I understand that there's ways to explain around a phenomena but there's some phenomena that never get explained. For example, the Phoenix Lights, and you've had shows about the Phoenix Lights, and probably one of the most bizarre things that I've ever experienced in my life was being in Phoenix at the time of that craft just hovering above Phoenix at about 40 miles an hour, just going slowly from the northwest down to the southeast over the city. It seemed like it blocked out the stars. I was there. I was there. I was aghast. My mouth was open, jaw was dropped open. I was with Elizabeth Carpenter out there and her family in Phoenix, and shortly thereafter, I had amnesia about it. In fact, everybody had amnesia about that experience and that whole event. The people who actually were witnessing it. So, and it really didn't come back to me until several years later when I saw that there was articles about it, and the lady who really made a big deal out of it, but it didn't go anywhere.
Dr.
But I saw that, and it's like, I did see that, so I thought, well, okay, I saw that, so something's happening. Something's that's different. That sure is different. So I'm hopeful that whatever it might be lying around in the desert. But I wanted to tie that into the art thing too.
Okay.
Is because, we don't see much literature about even a hint about what might be out there in terms of other life, because we really the whole humankind did not really accept the fact that we were maybe part of something bigger until kind of recently, within the last 400 years. Prior to that, they didn't really, the intellectuals, the philosophers, etc.
Well,
there's not much data.
Well, I disagree with you there, Rick. I think this is what, like if you look at the Bible, all right, and they talk about heavenly hosts, they talk about angels, those who descended from the sky.
Exactly.
I think it goes back at least 2,000 years.
Easily, but that's attributed to the explanations from the Bible. It's not a literal interpretation. It's a figurative interpretation of God the Father and the Holy. Yeah, because
or is this something that was witnessed, that those who witnessed it had no other way to explain it? Right.
Yeah.
The chariots of the gods and so on and so forth. Many wonders to still discover on this beautiful planet of ours.
It is a beautiful planet. It is incredibly beautiful. I'm all about being here on Earth right now and doing what I can to sustain it in the best way possible. We can do things all the time, but the reason why I mentioned that, the art of the religious art, the Egyptian, the whole pyramid. What? Come on. What? I still don't have a good answer for that.
Well, it depends on who you talk to. If you talk to certain archaeologists, they say it was the what do they call it? The ramp system that was used. Talk to other archaeologists, they have another explanation. If you talk to the New Age people, it's the aliens. So, who knows? I wasn't there, believe it or not. I just look old.
Yeah, okay. And then you had the fellow down in Florida who built a castle by himself.
The Coral Castle, yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Hey, Rick, we've got about a minute left. What are your final thoughts for the world?
My final thoughts for the world is that I am grateful to be on your show. I'm grateful to be here on the planet. I'm grateful for the many people who have helped me through some very difficult times in my life. My family, my brothers and sisters, my dear brother Johnny, who is who also was compromised. I'm just grateful. And I want to just share that it's possible to be all the things that we can be, and not get tied up in the pushing and the pulling of who said what and what we did. We don't need so many commentators telling about the commentators what the other commentator said, and then the other commentator. That's my final wish for today. And I wish you and your whole family the best always.
You take care of yourself, my good friend. And X Zone Nation, if you'd like to find out more about my guest this hour and my good friend Rick Borgia, visit his website, www.rickborgia.com. Now, I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news at 6.5 minutes past the top of the hour as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Niagara, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to visit the X Zone Broadcast Network website, find out about the programming we have available for you, 7/24/365 with our compliments, xzbn.net. For all the programming on the X Zone TV channel, visit simultv.com and when you get to the top of the page, there's a search engine. Just type in X Zone. I'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.